So in case you missed the news yesterday, or whenever I finished editing this and upload it, in case you missed the news, Blackmagic did announce yet 2 more Atem minis. And yes, the air quotes are warranted. So let's take a look at what this is, let's take a look at what this addresses, and let's take a look at what this means, and whether or not, I don't really want to get into whether or not you should buy it. That's going to be a choice you have to make. We will talk about the cost, and we'll go over some of the features. The first thing I want to talk about is, yes, as stated, it has 8 HDMI inputs, 4 chroma keyers, 6 DVEs, which we will dissect in a minute, 2 USB ports, and 16-way multi-view, and 2 HDMI auxiliary outputs. And I actually do like the fact that they call it an auxiliary outputs. As well as having the same or an updated streaming and recording drivers already built into it. So everything that you're used to is already there. For all of the inputs, they still all have scalars. There's just more inputs now. I'm going to wait and cover the expanded outputs in just a second. I do want to go over some of the other things. Some of the other things that I thought are really cool are the sheer amount of buttons on the front of this thing. This is about the size of a regular keyboard, so it's not massive. It's a lot bigger than what we were used to, but it's not insane. Like, you can still, I probably would not put this in a backpack. It might fit in a backpack. I don't know if I would put it in one. But just a dizzying amount of buttons. If you have a Blackmagic camera and plug it up via the HDMI, there are actual buttons to control iris, black levels, focus, gain, and I really should have taken better notes. The 4th thing. I don't have any Blackmagic cameras, so it didn't really concern me that much. That's why I didn't write down everything it does. You have a second media player instead of just a first one. There are macro buttons, so you can program macros in with the software and just one button the macros you've plugged in, which I really like. It kind of means I don't have to plug up a Stream Deck. Probably still would, but it just means I don't have to. There's a downstream key button like there was before. There's 4 chroma keyers, and the way they described it is you can have inputs 1 through 4 as your cameras, and then inputs 5 through 8 as virtual sets, and you can do all the chroma keying and well with that. Let's talk about the select buses next, which I think is actually a really cool feature, and I'm really glad it's on the actual machine. Basically, if you've used any of the Blackmagic Video Hub smart switches, you're going to be very familiar with the setup of this. It has a row of all of your inputs, including your media players, as well as your color selectors. I think there's a black and a color bars. All right, so the bottom row of your select buses is going to be your chroma key, key 1 Luma, key 1 chroma, key 2 Luma, key 2 chroma, downstage key 1, downstage key 2, DVI 1, DVI 2. What you want to use for your dip, if you want to change the color, or if you want to use an actual input to control your dip, your wipe, your logo, and your sting. So I know DVE 1 and DVE 2 are going to be your picture-in-picture preset buttons, but I still can't send this to one of my HDMI outs. That's interesting. Okay. I'm not probably going to use all of those buttons. I would probably mainly use the DVEs and the downstream keys, as well as the dip. So, but I also think that color bars and black are kind of not needed there either. So whatever. They added a bunch more buttons, so you have to use the software less, which is nice. Oh yeah, the outputs. So a lot of people complained about this. I basically made 2.5 videos about this. The lack of a second USB out or the lack of a second HDMI kind of hindered you if you wanted to record, especially if you had the ISO and you wanted to record all those ISOs, but then you still wanted to connect it to a computer and use vMix or OBS or whatever else. So they fixed that. You now have 2 HDMIs and 2 USBs. The USBs, you can do one as a hard drive to record your ISO, and then you can plug up and still use OBS. It's done. It's done. It's fixed. We're all very happy for that. Same thing with your HDMIs. You can have one will be your multi-view and one will be a program out. So if you're using this in the world I normally live in, which is live event production, which it's still 2021, those aren't happening as often, but just saying, for a breakout room, you're going to have a nice big keyboard. It might be overkill. There's a lot of features you're not going to use if you're just, switching back and forth. But you can have a multi-view. So if you do have multiple cameras in the room that do need to go to a screen or a stream or something, you have way more flexibility. I'm happy this feature is in there. Let's switch to audio real quick. Audio, you still have 2 microphone inputs, as well as every HDMI input will have its own audio buses as well. You can control them just like you did before. All of that's the same. What they changed, they added on this one, which I'm super happy for, is there's now a headphone jack. Excellent. So now we can hear everything we're taking in. We can put ears on this thing constantly and monitor it, adjust levels as needed, not based upon meters, but based upon what it actually sounds like. This is awesome. And we don't need to plug up an external monitor and put ears on that just to do it. It's built into this machine. All right, guys, sorry for the sound quality, but I realized during editing I forgot to cover the super source. And then I got on a plane and flew halfway across the country, so I don't have my normal setup. So you'll just have to deal with the bad audio for this. So one of the other awesome things they included in this is Super Source. Now, if you're not familiar with Super Source, they've had it on their ME series and above, so the 1ME, the 2ME, and the 4ME. And basically, it's what you're seeing right here. It allows you to do 4 layers or 4 layers of up to 4 layers of pips. They're all different layers. They all get their own input. You can control the layout and the size and everything as you go through it. I do like the fact that they put an input button for this on the front of the machine. You see it right here. I am disappointed with that huge bank of buttons at the top. They didn't include buttons for box 1, box 2, box 3, box 4. Because when you're using SuperSource, you have to go into the software, tell it which box will be getting which input, and then assign it from there. And there's no way to change that on the fly without using the control software. So that's a little bit disappointing. Something else they did that I thought was really nice is you can pull art from your media and assign it to as a background or a foreground. So if you're dressing up a vMix call or a Zoom call, and so you've got 4 people coming in on 4 different laptops or something similar to that effect, or 4 cameras, you can put a background on the back, and then you can do on the foreground, you can make a lower third PNG and layer that in so that it has a nice clean background, all of the pips, which are the cameras, and then all of their names. So again, this is something that's only been available on the ME series or above. So the fact they're bringing it down to an Atem level, I think is really, really cool. So overall reactions on this thing. They addressed a lot of the issues that not only I had, but a lot of you had as well. A lot of the problems that were constantly being brought up on the forums, they have addressed, they have fixed those. So right there, this is a good product. The price, are you kidding me? It's the same price as a Atem Mini ISO. That's insane. Like you're getting now. There is an ISO version of this which is an extra $300. Okay, I think that's reasonable. I think as surprised and shocked and in love as I was when they originally announced this, I am again with, so when they originally announced the original Atem Mini, I am with this. This will do so many things, and it should do it very, very well. They've not only added a bunch of features that we've all been asking for, but they also put in a lot of extra buttons so we don't have to use the computer as much. Or we don't have to have, or we can use the computer for OBS and vMix or whatever else we need to be using it for. We don't need to be switching back to their control software. I do have one issue, and it's an extreme issue. The name. And I know I constantly complain about the way Blackmagic names things, and I think they just doubled down on this because it's a mini, extreme, mini, extreme. What? Like, why didn't you just call it the majorette or the oxymoron? Small tidbit about the design. I will say this. It looks like a keyboard. And I understand why it's this wide, because you basically glued two of them together. But we couldn't make it a little bit, just a little bit deeper so it's not so... So it's not so this looking? Yeah, I mean, I think if you had made it deeper, you could have squished it a little bit, and then it could actually fit in someone's backpack. I don't know. Food for thought. My biggest reaction when I saw this and read some of its features was immediately, I wish I had $1,000. So one of these might be showing up on this channel sometime soon. I may be selling my regular Pro to help pay for it. But this thing I think is awesome. And yeah, if this is going to meet your needs, go ahead and pre-order it. Just do it right now. One other thing, I have been working on my own DIY case, portable case for a Mini with a monitor and a bunch of other things. I started it a couple months ago and got nowhere with it, so I scrapped it. And then last week I started doing it again. I did measure this thing will fit in that case, so who knows? I would just have to cut a bunch more holes for the HDMIs. So hopefully I'll have that video finished up next week with the way I had it intended, or the way I was already pushing it forward. So hopefully I have that out next week or in the weeks to come. I think I'm rambling at this point. Most of this will probably get cut down, so you might hear on my face. So as always, I'm Redbeard, and this is what I do.